Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank each of our panelists for being here this morning and for the role that each of you play in defending religious liberties around the world, regardless of what that religion may be. My background is that of a pastor for about 25 years before being in Congress, and I personally have seen a lot of what you deal with, and this has been an area of great concern for mine for a long time. And I appreciate the fact that y'all are on the tip of the spear in trying to deal with this and keep us informed. Religious liberty is a universal right, not just something that we cherish here in America. It should be something that is cherished around the world, regardless, again, of what the religion may be that is held by an individual. We've brought up today already some in the Muslim communities, be it in places like Burma or Russia or the Middle East, even where the Yazidis. I mean, we're seeing that. But one area of concern for me, not so much with your work, but it seems, at least with the media and otherwise, that is largely missing, is a persecution of Christians around the world that seems to largely go unnoticed. And I recall in November 2012 that from Germany, Merkel made the comment that Christianity was the most persecuted religion in the world. And of course, that statement was met with a great deal of criticism, but it's backed up. And there have been many reports, as you well know, of the plight that Christians are facing in many places around the world. And goodness, we can even look at some of the various laws of apostasy that many countries have, where if someone converts to Christianity, the punishment can be extremely severe and torturous. And many of these countries you've mentioned, from Saudi Arabia to Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. North Korea, we're seeing some horrible stories coming out of North Korea. China, in fact, I have a resolution to try to call China's hand on some of the catastrophes happening there. And bottom line, we just can't allow these things to continue. They've got to be brought to the public's awareness and to be dealt with. So just a couple of questions within all that context. Ambassador, let me begin with you. When the State Department is considering which refugees are admitted to the United States, what role, if any, does the threat of religious persecution against an individual play in the determination as to whether or not they would be allowed to come to the United States as a refugee?
Thank you, sir. It's key. The definition of a refugee is somebody who has a well-founded fear of persecution based on religion or political opinion. There are several categories, ethnicity, but religion is one of them. So to qualify as a refugee, if you say, I have a well-founded fear of persecution, that is the key thing you have to show. In terms of deciding, how to allocate our refugee numbers around the world, they tend to look at what are the most vulnerable populations, the most at-risk populations. And again, that can be based on people who are at risk because of their...
Do you believe that allocation is properly manifested when it deals with Christians around the world? I mean, we've got studies I've seen, some 200 million Christians around the world suffering persecution in one way or another.
Yeah, and you've got now we're usually in the order of 75,000 or 50,000 refugee numbers per year to allocate. It really depends on the particular area. In some countries, I think we've had a high percentage of the refugees coming in have been Christians because Christians have been persecuted there. In others, you get...
Let me ask my final question. I've only got 20 seconds. What does Congress need to do to help achieve the goal of both awareness and of stopping religious persecution around the world? And I'll open that to anyone who would like to answer.
Well, I think you already have given us a tremendous amount of tools. The International Religious Freedom Report, which is mandated, and as Dr. Farr said, it's diagnostic, but that's where you start. And we try to do a good job of saying what is the problem in each one of these places. Then you have the second set of what do you do about it, and they're the tools that have been given, having an office with programming, having ambassador at large who can go around the world and try to raise awareness of these issues, having sanctions that we can apply, whether it's on visas or on economic assistance or military assistance or other things. Those are all the kinds of tools you would use for other diplomatic efforts, but it's putting the combination together, getting across-the-board effort from the government. I think one of the things that adds to that, though, is the efforts of individual members of Congress. People do pay attention when they hear you and your colleagues speak up on these issues because they know that decisions that affect them are made in Congress as well as in the executive branch, and it really amplifies the message we're trying to get across.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.